Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Magnificence. I am G. I'm here as your dungeon master, as always. Very glad to have you back. I hope you've had a wonderful time and you're ready for our next session of chaos and adventure as we travel down to Walking Still. So you will notice that we are short one player today. Our dear Winter had some plans that could not be avoided today and is unfortunately too busy to join us for the game. So we will get to that here in just a moment. But moment of silence for Winter. Okay, moment over. Let's get right into it, everyone. As always, please go and show Sarson Games some love for writing the Oracles of Agra sourcebook we're using throughout this game. Wonderful subclasses, wonderful stories, very fun to play with. So, pause while I switch to the camera. Let's get right into things and kind of review where we left off last time. So, our session last time started with Sage delivering tea to the entire party and some of the household members, stopping lastly at her father's office. We very quickly see where Sage picked up the whole obsessive scholar who doesn't sleep for a week thing from. The father and daughter enjoy tea before Elias questions Sage about her recent adventures, scolds her for not writing him, though he never writes her, and asks about her current venture. He asks her to be careful while going down underground and gives her a gift, saying that it's something her sister Willow left her at the house. A strange stone, triangular gray stone with a hole in the middle, smooth and silky and fits easily in the palm of her hands. This is a minor magic item granting a little perk to Sage, a spell to use once per short rest. Soon, the party rests and leaves early that next morning. Sage and her father have a slightly awkward but encouraging goodbye, each of them promising to write each other, but they both know that they won't. Continuing on the road, the party soon encounters a strange sort of military convoy, is what it looks like, dressed in Shroudmore armor and heraldry. They carry a wanted poster with Suda's face on it. They claim that Suda is not wanted, but merely a person of interest, and her presence is requested back at Wolves Landing, aka the seat of the Aeon Conclave. Alina, speaking for the party, denies seeing her, but unfortunately, the guard captain is not convinced with Alina's deception. The convoy continues on its way, and the party confronts Suda, who keeps things close to her chest. Alina tells Kuvos about the strange second voice she heard in Suda's head all the way back at the funeral, and while settling down for the night, Alina glances over and notices her shadow. Her shadow does not mirror her movements. Everyone has a restful nights of sleep. The long rest passes without any issue or interruption, and by the time everyone wakes up in the morning, you all come to notice that the wagon you're traveling in is one person lighter. One by one, you all take notice that the little hammock bed, I believe that's where Suda had situated herself, is sitting empty. Blankets neatly folded and laid in the netting, and a neatly folded note laying atop the blankets. Anyone who takes a moment to read it sees that it simply says, "Have an errand to run. I'll meet you all in Walking Still." And there's no sign of Suda, but the promise that she will meet you all later in Mardo. So, here in the morning with the notes somewhat lightly, vaguely explaining Suda's absence, anything you guys are doing here in the morning before you set back out on the road?
Olwen would like to continue working on a proper pouch for that rock that Sage is carrying. He doesn't know what it is, but if they're going to carry it in leather, they're going to carry it properly.
Olwen sitting just incredibly focused on this leather cord, not speaking to anyone.
You said pouch, so is it going to be like a very small pouch to be worn on a string? Because that was kind of her intent, was to not have to dig it out.
Yes, yes.
Awesome. Love
I'm
it.
mostly saying pouch because I think in his mind he saw like a rock that's just tied to like leather cordage, and in his head that it's gonna fall, it's gonna break, it's gonna fall.
Amazing. You guys start the morning with some of the caravan guards and people that Leto has hired, passing out rations and such for breakfast before quickly getting back on the road. You guys have a handful of days left before you reach Walking Still, and you can tell Leto is eager to get there fast. So, you guys are just coming down on the border between the kingdom of Valensun and Mardo. You guys are going to cross into Mardo today. If anyone has anything they'd like to do, continue doing in this travel downtime, as I've said before, we have just a handful of days until we reach Walking Still. If nobody has any downtime plans, we'll just go ahead and roll on some of our travel tables and hope y'all get lucky. All right.
Let me just flip back in
Right.
my notes and see if I had anything.
While you're looking, Rosie, I think Kuvos would, having spent most of the evening after the discussion with Alina, contemplating, he would reach out to Magister Kieran through the Sending Stone and just say, not pressing, but can you collect me some books on instances of multiple minds in one body?
A few moments pass before you get the reply on the Sending Stone you carry. Sure. What the fuck are you doing out there? Never mind, don't want to know. No promises.
Thank you, Magister. Any information you can find is helpful. I just realized I forgot to do that in Kuvos' voice. Fuck.
Kuvos, why are you talking in a strange accent?
I will also say, mostly just for flavor, I guess, that with the whole shadow thing the night before, and like, what the F does that mean? I think after her conversation with Kuvos, and then that shadow bit happens, Elena, she's already been pretty reserved with this group. Like, she's not been the most outgoing, friendly person, but even notably for her, she is very withdrawn. She's not like out on her horse hanging out with folks. She's like sitting in a corner of the Vardo, probably has a book out that she's maybe reading, or at least looks like she's reading, but is kind of more just thinking and trying to remember if, like, has this ever happened before? Is it new? Is it something that, like, she's heard family members talk of in the past? Just trying to rack her brain and not worry anyone else because there's already enough weird stuff going on with the group.
Yep. I'll say, go ahead and just give me a history check.
Okay. First roll of the day. Oh dear.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I feel like so much pressure. Oh, I did not roll well. I got a 2 for a 5.
Everyone's magic fingers didn't work.
Yeah, I know.
Everyone trying to manifest a good roll. With a 5, nothing comes to mind. I mean, the things you've been seeing are so subtle, you have to wonder if you've actually even seen anything. It's that moment of like, am I tired? Am I distressed in some way? Is it just like tricks of the light? Am I seeing things? The lack of evidence to support the strange thing that's been happening around you just sort of reinforces an idea in your head that maybe it's just me.
Got it.
With a 5 history roll, Alina just gaslights herself.
What is the weather like as we're traveling? Asking for the sake of, am I in the Vardo? Is there a chance I pick up on this?
Right now, it's miserable and cold and muddy.
Mhm.
Like very, very cold. But surprisingly pretty clear outside. There's some clouds out, very heavy gray clouds to make it's not like clear blue skies. That is, you almost never ever see clear blue skies here in the Empire. It's as clear as it can get, which is heavily overcast. There's nothing falling from the sky right now, which is perfect.
Good. That's all we can ask at this time of year, truly.
Yep. You know you're gonna be getting some heavy snowstorms here pretty soon, just because you're coming up on winter. So you're gonna enjoy this beautiful, clear, overcast sky while you can.
Okay. I feel like it's actually less likely for Sage to be outside in that case because she wouldn't need to be helping get wagons unstuck or anything like that. Maintenance work is not needing to be done right now. But my passive insight is only 11. And I feel like knowing Alina is a bard, her passive deception is definitely higher than that.
I don't know about my passive deception, but yeah. Yeah.
I know your charisma modifier.
I think just with her charisma modifier on its own.
Yeah, I feel like probably just comparing like wizard notes with Kuvos at some point over the last couple days, like getting to like comparing spell books, just getting to know each other's for the sake of curiosity as always.
Yeah.
So if we have time together traveling, we're not working on other things, then I feel like that's what Sage is doing, at least, is pestering the other wizard in the party.
Amazing.
Show me your notes.
All right. In that case, as we continue on, anyone want to roll for travel for the day for me?
Who
I'll do
hasn't
it.
made a travel roll? Oh.
It's like I haven't done a travel roll yet.
Go ahead and roll a d20 for me.
Hopefully the Caradwin dice don't screw us. 11.
11. Okay, wonderful. All right, yeah. No, nothing too notable here in this days of travel. It remains calm skies, as calm as you can get. There is a moment where a couple like shepherds pass by with the biggest flock of sheep you've ever seen, and it sort of creates some traffic in the opposite direction where you guys are trying to part the sea of sheep. It slows you down by maybe an hour or two, but nothing too obstructive. It's just incredibly loud for like an hour as the sheep pass by, all bleating as loud as they can. You guys are crossing through into Mardeau at the end of the day. So you guys cross the kingdom lines, you exit House Landaris territory in Valensun, and you enter Mardeau proper into the territory of House Gravestark, the territory in which Walking Still lies. You guys stop for the evening at one of the towns along the way, Little Ivywood. You guys are free to wander about, do any shopping you care to do, if anything. There's nothing too out of the ordinary here, just a smaller town along the way. But Leto continues to pay for travel, so pays for board as you guys stay at a nearby inn, and you guys wake up in the morning after an uneventful long night's rest and continue on to the next day. So you guys next are going to be traveling from Little Ivywood to Doncaster, which is the next town just outside of Walking Still. It's going to be a day or two to get there. So let's go ahead and just get right into it. At any point during this travel, again, anyone feel free to butt in with any conversations they want to have, anything they want to do, anything like that. But we'll go ahead and just roll again for travel. Anyone who cares to do so, go ahead and roll me a d20.
I'll roll, but I also want to ask, do I finish Sage's little pouch in a day? Or do I need
Go
more than a day?
ahead, give me a roll with your leatherworking supplies.
Yay. What modifier am I using? Dex?
Yeah, with your dex. And then, of course, your proficiency.
Okay. 12.
12. Making some good progress. Still probably a couple days. It's a small object, but you're very good at what you do. So it wouldn't take as long as like maybe the armor would have. But you're, I'd say, about like halfway done or so.
Okay.
You think you'll definitely get it done before you reach Walking Still at the very least.
Okay.
All right.
I rolled a 12 for travel.
A 12. Wonderful. Okay.
1 point increase. Let's go.
Go ahead and roll a d4 for me.
Okay. Let's do this one.
This is for how many cows we see, right?
Yeah.
One.
Moo cows. We go
Moo
past a cow and one of
cow.
us goes moo.
Yeah, horses.
Moo cow.
As is
Whoa.
tradition.
Yeah.
Caradwin up on the roof going, cow.
You guys are all leaning
Yes.
out the
We
window
all
of
look
the
out the
Bardo,
window.
and it's just like, cow. Look, cows. Cow. Yeah, you guys see some cows. You guys see a bunch of cows. Well, I mean, that actually is very reasonable, because as you guys are getting into Mardo, you're going into less, like, mountainous territory. You guys are getting into, like, big plains and grasslands and such. So you do actually see a lot of livestock passing by, and a lot of farmers and shepherds and such in their fields leading livestock. So absolutely, you guys see a lot of that here in this area. But you do actually get lucky this day. The mud has dried up a bit faster than one would expect, and you guys kind of pick up the pace a little bit. So you are ahead of schedule at this point. Well, not ahead of schedule because you've fallen behind, so you've caught up with yourselves. Again, just kind of speeding through this. You guys, again, as you reach Doncaster, opportunities to go about the town, but again, it's a pit stop town more than anything. And we quickly go on to our final day of travel outside of walking still. You guys can see, since it's like grasslands and like flatlands out here, you see it in the distance. It is like a bone white, like ivory stone, like giant city. You see there are tall, like, towers in the center that suspiciously are tilted ever so slightly to the side. Very leaning tower, and you guys all know it was the heart of the city where that earthquake and collapse occurred. Some of these buildings, they were built pretty well to withstand it, but they look a bit tedious, a bit easy to topple now. It's a very grand city from what you can see from afar, though. So, our last day of travel, let's go ahead and have someone roll once more.
I don't think Emma's rolled yet for travel.
I have not.
yeah, Emma.
So I
Roll us a
will
dragon.
go ahead and. Oh God, please no. That is an 8, so we've got a decrease
no!
today. I'm sorry.
We need to stop making wiggly fingers every time somebody makes a
I
travel
think
roll.
it's not an effort.
Yeah, just because it's low doesn't mean it's bad. It's truly random, and I use a couple different tables. So it's
Fair.
it's as random as I could manage. So
You know what? Rolling sheep was a good roll, though. I like sheep.
rolling sheep was a great roll.
Sheep
You
are
guys see
fun.
more sheep. No. Okay. So you guys are getting, as you're getting into more populated areas, you're getting a lot closer to walking still. You're getting a lot more traffic these days. You come across a caravan similar to yours, except it is not pulled by like horses or like beasts of burden. You see they're like hand pulled carriages and such. And it's like older, like tired looking workers that are incredibly strong and muscular in like the torso and shoulders and arms. You can tell probably just from doing this. And you see it's 3 different like hand pulled carriages. 2 of them are completely closed, so you can't see what's inside. But the one at the very front is sort of like an open carriage, so you can see 2 people sitting at the front that seem to be like more armored mercenary types. And you see 3 more people sitting in the back of the carriage. One is like a very proper looking lady. She has an incredibly loud, like bright, like golden gown that she's wearing. Her hair is worn up in several braids that are put up in like big loops at the top of her head, like a big, almost like a beehive haircut, but just braids swirled and stacked on top of each other, an incredibly extravagant hairstyle with golden chains hanging from it. Very typical of the kind of outrageous fashion you see some higher nobility wear. The man wearing a similar like gold embroidered jacket with very curly facial hair and what looks like maybe a young daughter at their side. The woman sitting there fanning herself, kind of scoffing at the bugs buzzing around her. She fans herself. They barely regard your caravan as it passes by, but you pick up just a snippet of the conversation as you do go by. You hear the woman talking in a very like, oh, how dare they kind of tone. Like, can you believe it? We travel all this way simply for her to turn us away at her door. We're offering stability. We're offering wealth. We're offering things that someone of her station could only dream of. And she says, no, thank you. Well, I certainly will never be making that mistake again. Ugh, inventors. Just complaining loudly about someone.
I don't recognize them by any chance, do I?
Not necessarily. You think from their look, you would assume they're probably from Ancairn, but no one of high enough nobility that you can be bothered to remember their names.
I'll take this as an opening for a conversation that I've been trying to find an opening to have. Not that you didn't give us the opening, G, but in character.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I feel like we're all just kind of sitting in the Vardo at our usual spots, Olwen, I imagine, and Caradwin on the roof and the nerds indoors. Just trying to seem so incredibly nonchalant about it. Not exact. Is walking still typically a sort of destination place for folks of more wealth or nobility to travel, Lena? Have you ever gone on any trips with your parents or anything like that?
No, not for me anyway. We didn't really travel much as a family, unless there was some political reason, of course.
Well, it's just been on my mind since that Sir Solomon mentioned her.
Yes. I don't know what that's about. Sure, I'll find out eventually.
It was interesting that somebody from House Demseer seemed to be familiar with you.
Yes, it was. Elena she had been kind of sitting somewhat artistically draped on the couch or bed, because that's just kind of how she does, like, just naturally is what she's trained to do, right? She just kind of drapes. And so she's been kind of sitting and reading her book, and as Sage started to speak to her, she kind of paused in her reading and looked up. And as the conversation kind of got to that point, she made that sharp comment, looked for a moment longer, and then went back to her book and turned a page.
I'm just really curious about why somebody with House Demseer is working on business for both his own house, but also Oldfire, and also seems to have... Just want to know what this crap was left for, all of that, why somebody would want to stop that business from happening.
Mm-hmm.
We're both just staring at books, like, turning a page once in a while, very much not processing what we're quote-unquote reading.
Yes, 100%.
Just both of us, and Kuvos is just sitting there, like, witnessing this.
Kuvos is looking over his spells again because he needs something to do to cut this tension that he does not want to be a part of at all.
I will also say that when you mention Damseer and Oldfire, Elena's hand kind of goes to fiddle with something around her neck, and you might have noticed it before. She's wearing, and usually she keeps it kind of tucked inside her clothing, but today, for whatever reason, it's kind of fallen out, and it's a seal ring similar to the one on her hand. You haven't been able to see like exactly what it is unless you've done some sort of look, but it's a gold seal ring, and it's on a chain around her neck, and she has never taken it off that you've seen so far. She kind of touches that for a moment. Damseer can go to hell. Just kind of mutters that.
Sage does kind of look up from her book. Now, I know that some of the people we're traveling with here would say that about any house, but it's interesting to hear you say that about another. Of course, I cannot force you to tell us, but I'm just interested to know what...
Let's just say I don't like how Damseer sometimes chooses to utilize the rights.
Such as the one of retribution.
Such as. And Oldfire should care more about their own. They don't.
Interesting. So is this something between Demzir and Oldfire then that you just happen to be witness to?
Elena's, like, she just starts to fiddle. That book in her hand, she's kind of running her hands along it and stuff, and it's like there's clear tension or something there. Look, I know you're trying to be friendly and to just be curious, but let it rest, all right? Just let it rest.
All right. Let's turn another page of the book.
Mm-hmm. And Elena kind of just stares out the window for a while. If you were to look at her very closely, there is a tear tracing down a cheek.
Sage is going to drop the subject with the understanding that despite the fact that Alina can no longer legally murder her, which is why she waited to have this conversation, she is very blunt. She doesn't have much patience for pleasantries, but she also knows when to drop a subject for the time being. So, for the time being.
Meanwhile, Kuvos has climbed up to the roof because this is awkward and he doesn't want to be there anymore.
Kubo's fully evacuated. You're on the roof with Caradwin now.
Yep.
I want to say that Caradwin's passive perception is just high enough to have picked up on some of the tension emanating from the interior. So, no commentary. When
Kuvos crawls out of the skylight and you just see like a palpable wave, like a heat shimmer coming out of the...
And just sort of scoot over and make a little more room.
He'll just kind of sit, and he knows that Carrie's not much for conversation, so he'll kind of just sit up there, keep fiddling with the spell book. Is Olwen up there?
I think Owen, who has a very high passive perception, the moment that conversation started happening, just immediately crawled to the roof. But it didn't help. He could hear everything.
Beautiful. He'll just kind of nod at Olwen.
I think as Kubos like comes up and like nods at Owen, Owen does just look at Kubos and goes like, "Oof."
Oof is right.
Ooh, alright. Well, what is the order of business once we reach Walking Still?
Well, and he kind of looks at Carrie, and I think the order of business is to look into that device that we were supposed to have built, and the woman who was supposed to do it, or person who was supposed to do it. Correct?
Alright, yeah, that makes sense. I mostly meant so, individually or as a group, what is the order of business? I know that we have to make it to Walking Still and take a look at that device or whatever you would call it, but none of us know each other all that particularly well, and we're moving into a dangerous situation. Are we taking any steps to try and not die?
That's a good question. I mean, and Kuvos kind of sits back and thinks for a moment and says, it's hard to know since we don't have much information from Leto about exactly what we're walking into. From what he understands, and from what he's told us, he doesn't know what happened. She just said that she's not going to make the device anymore. So, something had to have stopped her. The question is what? So, I think once we get there and we find the building, looks at Carrie, doing some reconnaissance might be the best start, and planning from there.
I don't think Athen Cleary will be too hard to find. From what I understand, she doesn't leave her home. Ever.
That certainly helps.
So it's simply a matter of finding out which home is hers, someone of her reputation. Again, not terribly difficult. And I suppose we could scope it out a little, but I admit I am curious and maybe even a little excited to meet her. I've heard some interesting things about a woman of her particular talents.
Oh,
Are you going to be more specific than things, or is that where the description of that ends?
I've merely heard whispers of the genius of her inventions and her general inclination to not choose a side in any singular conflict or interpersonal issue. A stance I find generally admirable.
Hmm. I can respect that, especially when every side seems to be worse than the next. But, alright. So, we make it to Walking Still. We find Athen Cleary. Is that how you say it?
Athen.
Athen Cleary. Okay. Try and talk to this hermit of a woman. Convince them to make the device, or are we giving up on the device?
we can't give up on the device, otherwise we won't have any way to tell where we're going.
Hmm.
So unless you want to be lost underground, we leave with the device.
That's alright. That does make sense. I would prefer not to be lost underground. I don't think that's that wild of an idea. So, Caradwin, do you only use knives?
Sorry. Absolutely loaded question there.
We've all got the giggles today.
That was an amazing statement.
Knives, swords, whatever might be on hand. I do have my preferences.
Okay. I've only been meaning to ask because in at least most, oh no, there's been, in all of the fights that we've been in, you seem to prefer to run into close quarters for your combat. And I remember distinctly that the affront to nature on legs that we fought in Shroudmoor had the ability to explode things in close quarters. So I've only been meaning to ask, do you have an option in case you need to stab something that is more than 5 feet away?
Well, a good dagger can always be thrown, though of course I'd like to retrieve it, good blades being hard enough to find. There are certain risks I'm willing to take.
Why?
My reasons are my own.
That is entirely fair, but also, if you are going to be traveling and fighting in a group, I would much rather not have someone in that group respond to danger by saying, there are risks I'm willing to take. That tends to bode poorly, at least from what I've seen. Would you be interested in at least picking up a ranged weapon?
If it would make you feel better, sure.
Yes, it would make me feel so much better to know that you don't just use knives.
I don't just use knives. I have swords too.
I'm not insane for suggesting this, am I, Kuvos? This feels like a reasonable ask.
You look over, and Kuvos, having found this renewed tension where he tried to flee from previous tension, is basically hiding behind his spellbook at this point, and he kind of looks up from it. He looks up from it, and looks at Olwen and is just like, looks at Carrie. And at the raised eyebrow he receives, kind of is like, they seem capable enough either way. I don't know if an explosion is going to be a problem. I think we'll be okay.
Guos, you need to calm down. We're talking about weapons that we carry. It's not like we're having a heavily emotionally charged political conversation. We're just You're okay. Breathe. You're outside. God,
I think it would be very funny if in this moment Sage like poked her head out of the skylight because the conversation is over because Kuvos didn't get up there until halfway through it. It's just like, oh, Kuvos, do you have the shield spell?
And then he starts flipping through the
Hang on, let me
the
get the
spell book.
ink.
No, I don't.
Let me get some ink. We're gonna have to put that one in if...
All right. Is there anything that you need?
Just not die instead of dying somewhere else, maybe.
That would be preferable, but I do have mage armor. So, can I... So I think that also is helpful. For the not dying.
This is my way of saying, G, can we spend the 50 gold pieces to give Kuvos the shield spell into his spellbook in this downtime?
Hell yeah. I'm just now imagining Carrie and Olwyn just zoning the fuck out now that the two wizards are like getting into all the technical spell shit. Just like totally just not there.
Back to stuff I don't care about. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really... Kuvos doesn't need to dodge the tension in this conversation. It's not as though Olwyn is questioning my methods or anything.
That is exactly why Kuvos...
No, it's usually Suda who does that, and she's not there, so somebody's gotta.
I know.
Oh boy.
Gods forbid someone ask if you have options.
I think Kuvos would take that opportunity to just escape with Sage.
As Kuvos leaves with Sage, Owen is going to comment to Caradon again. How are you one of the better conversations in this group? Entirely, like, completely honest question. I'm sure you don't get the comment, wow, you're a great conversation, a lot of the time. So how are you one of the better ones right now?
Olwyn, I'll be honest with you, I have never received that comment before. I do like you. You seem to have it mostly together, which is more than I can say for some of the other ones here. Also, you don't dance around things. You're very straightforward. I appreciate that.
It's so difficult when people do. No one understands anything. You're not bad yourself.
Okay, that's enough talking now.
I will say, as they come down and are having that conversation, at some point in this mix of time, Elena stops trying to pretend that she's reading a book, and instead she kind of sharply and angrily gets out some paper and a pen or a quill and starts scribbling a letter. Fairly... her first draft is like kind of rough and scratchy, and then she like is crossing things out and putting a lot of effort into it, and then she takes it and does a second copy that is extremely careful and perfect in her penmanship. It's like calligraphy.
Love that for Alina, scratching angrily, getting it all out, and then copying a perfect version.
Especially given who she's sending it to.
Perfect. All right. So, you guys continue on your way traveling until finally, in like late afternoon, aka the sun is setting, bathing the whole like Ivory Stone city in golden light. You guys finally arrive in Walking Still, the beating heart of the Empire, the inventor's capital of this entire land, a place where genius and artistry come together to mix into a beautiful melting pot. And it is so not as grand as everyone describes. You step 2 feet into the city before realizing this is horrible. You see what you can only assume are mages and spellcasters with heavy steel helmets strapped to their necks and covering their heads. Only one hole if they're lucky to see through to see where they're going. Chains attached to the metal collars being dragged alongside behind rich-looking noble folk as they chitter about and laugh and gossip, just yanking this person alongside right behind them. You see workers exhausted and abused. They're struggling to walk through the streets. They're sweaty and they're beaten down and they're exhausted. This is them going on a 2-minute break to cross the street to get some water before immediately going back to work. You see them working in these smithies over open flames while the person who owns the shop just merely kind of orders them around a bit. You see them beginning to haul stones across the streets, trying to get to the heart of the city where you guess they are in the throes of rebuilding things that were destroyed. You see people being carried on these litters, the sort of hand carried like modes of transportation. There's all kinds of rich looking folk just kind of splayed across, just like enjoying the day, calmly drinking out of a jeweled goblet, looking about, greeting some others on the streets, just being paraded about as if they're gods more than anything. The constant that you're seeing is these great inventors that are rumored to flood this city, that this is where some of the most brilliant minds and builders of the empire come to join together. You see is just, as normal, a bunch of rich assholes being carried around by other people who are actually doing the hard work for them. The illusion of this being a grand city of invention quickly fades the moment you guys enter. Leto kind of takes the lead. He steps off the front of the caravan and speaks to one of the guards, who kind of points him down and passes him a scrap of paper as Leto enters the city proper. He takes you guys to an inn, of course, paying for rooms and everything that you guys may need for the evening. The people that were hired to join the caravan during this journey, they part ways at this point. You see Leto pays them, they nod to all of you and depart, disappearing into the crowd of the city. Their work here is done, leaving just your party and Leto. The horse that he carried, the horse that he was carried on, is the one mode of transportation he has, along with your guys' own Vardo. The other caravans and wagons depart with the rest of the mercenaries, and he takes your guys' wagon to be stalled at one of the nearby inns so you guys can rest for the night. As you guys are settling down, you're here in the city proper. He's stabled all transportation and all mounts for the evening. The sun is quickly setting. There's still some daylight, but not a lot. It's getting pretty dim. You see some of these tired workers going around, lighting the lanterns along the streets so people can still see, because the day is far from being done. But Leto finally turns to you guys after rooms have been secured for everyone and everything is stabled. All right. Welcome to Walking Still. I would say a grand city, but not as good as others I've seen. But we have rooms for the night. We can settle in if you like. I have a few things I'm going to attend to now that we're here in the city proper. But first, before we get into anything else, would you all care to see the entrance into More Akros?
Certainly.
I believe I would. Gee, I have a question.
Yeah.
Is Sage, has, through her travels with the Coven in the last few years, has she spent much time in Mardo?
I think you've passed through. Yeah.
The thing that I specifically am wondering if it's normal, the mage helms. Sage is familiar with those as a way to detain people if they have broken a law and are being imprisoned. Not as something that people would keep spellcasters in if they were serving a family or something of that sort, right? Is this something that Sage has encountered before? I feel like it's
definitely seen them being used before.
Yeah, because we had them in Beggar's Hole. I know it as a handcuff kind of measure of this person has broken the law, we need to restrain them.
Yeah, it's common for guards all across the Empire to have some on hand because it's the easiest way to, because you can put a fighter in shackles and they're subdued. It's harder to do
Exactly.
so for a wizard who's throwing fireballs. So you've definitely seen them before. I will say, not in this volume.
Mm-hmm. And it seemed like they were more being used as collars.
Not in this volume and not so
Mhm.
casually. People are toting them around like servants and pets on a chain leash.
Yeah, that's...
This is a bit alarming. And you have to wonder,
okay.
despite House Gravestark having control of Walking Still, and despite House Gravestark being neutral, majority of Mardo is under Empire control.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yep.
But yes, I do want to see the entrance.
Yes, it is a big fucking hole in the ground. But like I said, it's going to take like a week at least to actually get down to the level in which we need to go. But it's fun to go and look at.
I will say, as we're like getting all gathered and all of that, Elena takes a moment to not change her clothes fully, but put on like a cloak or something that sort of indicates status, just for what it might get us in the terms of moving through the world. Sometimes it's useful to be perceived as one of the halves. Not that she says that aloud to anyone, that's why she's doing it.
You all join Leto. I'm assuming no one objects to wanting to go see the whole entrance into Mor Akros. He guides you all through. A couple people here in Mardo greet him as if they know him. You have to assume Mardo is familiar with him given the expeditions he's been doing down into Mor Akros. The thing that's a bit surprising, I guess, or at least not expected, is it's not just noble people who are greeting him in familiarity. A lot of the workers do so as well. They wave to him, nod to him once or twice. They stop and chat with him for just a minute or two before he's like, I must get going. But they seem to be familiar and at least on friendly terms with him. Some of the noble people, they kind of give a bit of an eye roll as he passes by. He's not the most respected, just due to his wild nature when it comes to discovery, as you guys have experienced yourselves. But he does seem to be on pretty friendly terms with the majority of people here in Mardo and Walking Still. He takes you guys towards the center of the city, where you know the earthquake had occurred and toppled most of the structures. It takes probably like half an hour or so to get to the center. But you guys get there and you see what you saw from afar, which is a couple of the tall towers are now sitting at an angle. They had begun to fall in, but stood strong. You see, there are almost like changing curtains, like the foldable, like little room dividers, and big stretches of cloth, creating a big circle around this area where the collapse, you would have to guess, is. And there are guards posted around, obviously trying to keep you out. You see, these are not Walking Still guards. These are personal, like King's Guard, or in this case, Queen's Guard, of the Witch Queen Sela. And you see they're posted about with local city guards also posted about, and they do not seem to be happy to be standing side by side. The guards that work for the Witch Queen, as you guys can tell, just simply nods to Leto as he approaches and pause, about to pull some of these dividers away, looking at all of you joining Leto. He quickly waves a hand in front of him and goes, no, these are the next people. We are going down soon. Take it up to with your queen if you so desire, but we are not going down now. We are just going to go take a look. I've already gotten authorization, so you please move the thing. Thank you. Okay, everyone, get in. Go. Ushers you all in very quickly, and you guys enter to not quite a wide city square, but what was once a very wide street. It is crumbled and cracked and dilapidated. You see a couple of 2-3-story buildings that were once standing there sturdy are now either on their side or just remnants of them are all that's left, as they were completely swallowed by the earth. The stone street has been cracked and crumbled, and of course the tall towers that now sit at an angle. Occasionally a loose stone or two falls from the tower and down into the hole below, giving the indication that eventually it's just a matter of time before they get swallowed up as well. The biggest thing that catches your eye, especially you, Olwen, the giant hole that leads into the earth is absolutely covered in lush, green, thick vines and ivy. Looks as if it has been growing there for years and years and years, and it has been perfectly maintained. Looking down into the hole, you see no exposed earth. The only exposed stone you see are things that have fallen from above and now rest atop the ivy and vines. But from what you can tell, there's no lights that lead down in. From the tiny bit of sunlight and torchlight that now line the streets, it's just a hole that leads straight down, a bit of an incline towards the bottom, maybe about 50 or so feet down, but it's just foliage growing up from within. And I think as you all stand there, looking down into this gaping maw that leads down into the earth, you don't know if you're imagining it or if it's the excitement for the adventure ahead, but you feel something so slight and so gentle, almost tugging you. Like a string connected to your heart, it almost lures you into it. Something within you wants to go inside and see what hides within that dark. But this is the image that you guys see as you stand on the precipice of Mor Akros, the city of the Rotten Root. You know somewhere down below is the abandoned city.
How far away? I guess I should say, how close do we get to the
You can get
entrance?
right up to the edge. Leto definitely is like, oh, probably don't stand right there, like back up a few feet. Some of the stones are still very loose. We have to rappel down by ropes about 50 or 60 feet down, and then we start climbing down on our 2 feet. But I would hate for you to fall, because it is a whole thing to try to retrieve you.
Right, sorry. Owen will get as close as he can that's safe, at least where Leto says it's safe. And I would like to... Could I try and identify these plants?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and just give me a nature check.
Okay.
Can I give a help action since I'm proficient in herbalism, Kit?
Yeah, absolutely. If you'd like to help give a quick investigation about it.
19 total.
19 total. You crouch. You don't have to get right on the edge as the vines are growing out and are growing across the ground. So you're a few feet back from the edge and you can easily kind of get one of the vines in your hand and begin to investigate it. Right off the bat, these are incredibly healthy pieces of foliage. They are strong, they are deeply green, they are thriving, which is strange for a few reasons. First of all, it's coming up on winter. You're a few weeks out from winter, which, of course, as you're all familiar, winter here in the Empire is deep and dark and freezing, and nothing survives until spring. That throws you off a bit, how healthy they are. And also given the fact that they clearly weren't here before the collapse, given as they've grown over a lot of the collapse. From what you would have to guess, the collapse happened, and then the roots and the vines suddenly came out of it, as if they were waiting just below the surface the entire time, and once the ground broke, they just climbed up to the surface. On a 19, the last thing I think that you would notice It's very hard to tell. But you know how leaves have like similar to veins that we have, just like running through them and such, and you can kind of see the difference in color and texture. The little veins on the leaf, it's incredibly hard to tell, but you swear you see the faintest tint of red in those veins.
Am I able to tell whether or not these were made with magic, considering that I also grow plants with magic?
I think with that same, I think we'd be dipping more into general arcana or identify at that point.
Okay.
Currently, where you're standing with your previous roll, you cannot tell.
Okay. Second question.
Yeah.
I know will I get like shot full of arrows if I try to do magic right now?
I mean, nobody's really paying attention to you. There's guards posted on the outside. The only ones in this closed off area are your party and Leto.
Okay. Olwen would like to take the vine, sort of hold it close and hide it a little bit.
Mhm.
And I just want to see if I can make it like grow with druidcraft.
Yeah. You reach out with this druidic magic that you are so familiar with. You feel the like essence of your magic reach out. The moment you feel it begin to touch the vines, your fingers grow cold, very cold. And that cold begins to slowly, very, very slowly, but enough to notice, creep up your hand. They do not react to the druid craft, but you are ice cold in response.
I think Olwen is going to comment to the party. These vines, this foliage, it grew after the collapse. I don't know what that means, but something collapsed the area first, and then this foliage grew here. It's alive. Far too alive for this time of year. There's no light. The only sunlight that can make it down here is through this hole, unless there are other openings somewhere. Even then, nowhere near enough light for this much foliage to grow.
Like it's growing out of the city?
Well, yeah. Well, growing out of something deep, lower. Because it's not here at the surface. The collapsing ground didn't reveal this to be just there. They crawled out. There's also something red in the... Just here, look. Underneath the surface of the plant, there's something red. Almost like blood going through veins. And
Or like the crystals.
maybe. And Kuvos, come take a look at this.
Kuvos will step forward.
I tried to see if my magic would react to it. It affected me instead, and I'll sort of like hold out my hand to show Kuvos.
Does it look different, G, or is there just like, if he touches it, is it cold?
When you touch the vines, they feel as normal foliage. Through just simple touch alone, you see no difference between them and like normal plant life. There's no difference from anything, the vines, Olwen, none of that, except Olwen's hands are just exceptionally cold, as if they've been sitting in a pile of snow for several minutes.
That's strange.
I've been curious about this for a while anyway. I've been wanting an excuse to do this out of character. I'd like to pull out that crystal that we got.
Yeah.
And just try to cast a light cantrip on it.
Yeah. You remove the crystal you retrieved from the fire starter many days ago. Of course, it is still in its like dead, quote unquote, state. There's no light coming from within it. It just looks like a normal red rock at this point. You cast light on it, and it reacts as you would expect. The surface of it, light does not go within it. Like the surface of it is covered in like a gentle glowing light, but nothing out of the ordinary.
Doesn't seem to react to magic the same as the vines that did then. It was worth a try.
Kuvos is gonna sit down, and I think he's going to take this time to cast Identify as a ritual.
Mhm.
If,
Yeah.
well, he'll look at everyone and say, "Do we have a few minutes?"
Vito nods you along. No, that is fantastic. You take a moment to cast that, but I would like to. Here, he sits beside you and reaches into his coat and takes out a small, very worn notebook that he flips through. You see there's several scribbled notes in it. So he does this while you're casting Identify. I wanted to wait until you saw it for yourself so I could show you sort of the research that I've done so far. Oh, and the comparison you made with the leaves having veins almost similar to being filled with blood. That is what I noticed too. That is the peculiar thing. Plant life is alive, of course, as you all know. But it is alive in a different way than you and I. The best way I can describe it. The plant life that is coming out of the buried city. It is more akin to the way we are alive than the way normal plants are alive. He takes one of the vines in his hand, pulls just a very small, like little pocket knife, essentially, from his pocket. Holding one of the leaves flat against his palm, he motions for you all to observe as he slices the leaf. Teeny, teeny, tiny beads of red come out of the slice, as if it is bleeding, but just a few. It is barely there. You have to look very closely. And he holds it for everyone to observe. I think this supports my theory. Sage, with your rock that you cast the spell on, these are connected to whatever is down there. The rock is no longer connected.
That makes sense.
I think these are an extension of something that is still alive down there. That is my leading theory. But as I said, we have found nothing. No corpses, no creatures, no bugs, nothing. But something down there is alive.
So I think while all of this science nerd stuff is happening, Caradwyn almost unconsciously drifting closer to the edge, sort of following that pull. Something wants you inside. As close to the edge as they can get. And I think close her eyes and take a deep breath, take in that sort of smell of under the earth and the plant life and everything. Maybe a trying to perceive, a perception check of some kind to see if there's something either deeply familiar or deeply unfamiliar about that.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think also Grace the player does not expect anything to come of this, but I think in that sort of perception and sort of trying to open her awareness, Caradwyn is going to burn a use of Eyes of the Grave.
Okay.
To sense any undead presence that might linger.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, just read the Eyes of the Grave ability for me, just so we can all have the actual mechanical description.
Sure. As an action, you know the location of any undead within 60 feet of you that is not behind total cover and is not protected from divination magic until the end of your next turn.
Wonderful. So that's fun, absolutely. Do that as well as just general perception.
A total of 12.
Well, you close your eyes and breathe in the scent of this turned earth. The first thing that you notice is, though you know you stand above ground and you stand in the open air, you for a moment feel as if you're holding handfuls of dirt in your hands. Like, you know it's not there, but you feel the sensation of cool, clean soil in your hands. and you breathe in the scent, and you focus. The detection gives you a strange, almost out-of-body experience. You are very aware of you standing on the edge, standing in the open air, but you are also aware of the path down. Since it's 60 feet, you basically get to the end of the straight drop off before it starts to become into more of a walking path. But at the same time, you feel yourself standing on the edge. You also feel yourself standing at the bottom of this drop off. You feel the uneven ground beneath your feet. You hear the very slight rustling of the leaves brushing up against each other. You detect nothing out of the ordinary, but you definitely feel a deep call, a deep connection to what is before you. All right. Anything else before Kuvos finishes the identify?
While we have a minute, this is a bit off topic, Your Grace, but I did want to ask while we had a more private moment and might not have more listening ears in a tavern or something of the sort. Should those of us in the party who use a little more magic than Braun be careful about doing that publicly here? Couldn't help but notice the... Typically, you don't see mage helms outside of arrests.
As Leto is like kind of crouched beside Kuvos, finishing giving his demonstration, he looks around and kind of makes a face and shrugs. I hesitate to say yes or no. Frankly, I think it's shitty for any spellcaster to be anywhere in the Empire outside of Understone. I would advise a general bit of caution wherever you are, unless we are in the middle of the fucking conclave, but it's really a sort of unknown thing. The shackled mages, that is less of a Mardot cracking down on enemies of the Empire, and that is more so House Shroudmore giving gifts to Gravestark in attempt to sway the Archduchess.
What sort of gifts?
Prisoners of the conflict, now being used as servants. They have no other option because they cannot escape. They are not people at this point, they are presents. They are political tools, I regret to say.
Kuvos nods, goes back to the identify spell. But you see he's kind of stiffer.
He kind of claps you on the shoulder a bit. You can tell he's not fond of what's happening, but obviously can do little about it. Kuvos finishes the casting of Identify. To sort of just like save a bit of time, I won't get into the details because what you detect is very similar to what you have previously detected within the crystals and the stones.
Okay.
Which is necromancy, less in the sense of undead, more in the sense of spare the dying, minor healing, things like that. You can definitely tell there is magical elements to this. All the vines. Whether they are alive themselves or they are something to like provide sustenance, that is unclear. But you can tell they are definitely magical and definitely connected to something. This is the best way to put it. This is more akin to a nervous system than plants.
Mm-hmm. And as he takes in that information, he looks back over at Olwen and says, "You're definitely right that these are growing from somewhere. This is more like a brain or an organism all in and of itself than just a vine. They're all connected. They all have similar energy to the crystals that we found, but they have to be connected to something to be active, like Leto talked about.
You said it's similar to, what did you call it? A brain, a nervous system?
Yes. It's alive, which plant life is alive, but it's alive in a different way. It's thinking.
Well, I mostly meant, how many did you find? Is this one system, two?
DM
There are thousands of vines here. Are you saying that this is all just one creature?
This is all one organism.
At the mention of it's a brain, it's thinking, all of those sorts of things, Alina she moves over and starts listening. She doesn't say anything. But then at an opportune time, she kind of drifts away again, and she goes to kneel down near the edge of the opening where some of the vines have sort of come out, and she gingerly, very carefully takes a deep breath and then reaches out first a finger and then a hand to sort of wrap her hand around one of the vines and cast Detect Thoughts.
Wonderful. What's the save for that again?
Give me a moment. Sorry, I did not have it up.
There's no save for surface thoughts.
Yeah, there's no save. There's no save for surface thoughts. If I wanted to push, it would be Wisdom 14.
Okay, and you're just doing surface thoughts.
For now, yes. Partly, it's just what the F is this?
Cool. Wonderful.
I might push. We'll see.
Awesome. Love that. Alternatively, you please give me a wisdom save.
Yeah, I figured that. Oh, come on! Don't rack me dice today. 11.
11. Please, Alina, roll on your table.
I rolled a 6.
A 6, okay. So first things first. You cast Detect Thoughts on these vines. The wisdom save is failed. And the first thing that happens for this effect is you hear in your mind, but very, very far away, as if you're underwater or in a giant room and they're on the other side. No words, just sounds. And the sound is just sounds of breathing, laughter, panting. Something. It deeply disturbs you. And as it ends in a sharp, you feel a almost stab into your head. Something doesn't feel right in your body. The pain in your head moves down your spine. It feels like claws grip your stomach in pain, as if something is attacking you, but from the inside, the faintest bit of blood dribbles from between your lips. For the next little bit, you have disadvantage on all charisma checks. And I'll roll to get an exact number of how long that'll last. For the next 2 minutes, you have disadvantage on all charisma checks.
So if you guys are perceiving and noticing stuff, you might notice that, like, her face just suddenly looks pained and like she's struggling and failing to play against that pain that is going on inside.
Am I able to notice that she's bleeding from the mouth?
Are you trying to hide it, Alina? How well are you trying to hide it?
Oh, yes, trying to hide it very much.
Wonderful.
Does Owen do this?
I'll say...
You want a deception?
you do have you will have disadvantage if it's deception.
Yeah.
I'll give you the choice between stealth or deception.
Ooh, I think I'm still gonna try and go with deception.
Okay, wonderful.
I'm fine. Don't fail me now, dice. Not great. Oh, one of them was a 20, but the other one was a 13 plus 6. So, 13, 14, 15, 16, 19.
Damn, 19 even with disadvantage. Fucking
Mm-hmm.
charismatic as fuck. Yeah.
Charismatic AF.
I'll have everyone go ahead and make me active insight checks. Anyone who cares to be focusing in on this.
Can
14.
I do?
Didn't do it.
Can I do perception to see, like the signs of it? Like the blood on the mouth.
I'll say, since it's more deception than anything, we'll go insight.
Okay.
My modifiers are the same. It's a 14 either way.
14. So anyone above a 19.
I'm too focused on the magic stuff.
10.
9.
Yeah, 13. Caradwyn, too busy thinking about underground.
Yeah. Alina's weird. She gets headaches.
Do you guys just see
sometimes.
her? She gets headaches sometimes. She just reaches down, touches the thing, has a moment.
Weird spell.
Weird noble shit. Who cares?
That was... Excuse me a minute. Just steps away.
Kuvos kind of, at that reaction especially, even though he's not really pressing and letting Alina have her moment, kind of looks at everyone. I think we should probably stop touching them.
I think this is all we can get about just looking at the entrance and the vines from here, at least for the time being, so.
Yes.
Agreed for now.
Is Kuvos wearing his, like, conclave cloak with the symbol out or anything like that?
He had been consistently turning it inside out, but now that the patch has been sewn over the many-eyed wolf, he's still wearing it the opposite side. Especially here with those, with some of the mage helms that they've seen. He doesn't necessarily want to display that symbol.
I think since we need to wait for Suda to catch up with us after she ran whatever errand she's on and find us, we need to go to see Athen Cleary, but I think we may have some time in the meantime. Possibly. Kuvos, even with the patch covered, anybody who's been to Wolves Landing will probably be able to recognize that.
You're right.
Those garments. So we should probably go find something else for you to wear.
That doesn't sound like a bad idea.
Not that I don't think they would be particularly foolish enough to have the number that are here to have been captured like that.
Leto, who has, when Alina moved away, gave her a second, but then quickly kind of went to her side and just calm hand on the shoulder, wordlessly, just like a little flask of water, handed it off to you, but said nothing. Just as a sort of calm presence, seeing you're obviously in some sort of distress. As you mentioned, hiding Kuvos, he quickly turns back and claps his hands together and quickly scurries back over. I have a robe I can give you. You can wear it. Put it over. Wonderful. Wonderful. It may be a bit long. We will have to have it.
How tall is Duke Leto again?
Like, almost two, like, he's a tall, lanky guy. He's, like, almost 2 full heads taller than Kuvos. He's, like, looking down at you. He's like, ew, we will maybe have to have it. You can roll up the sleeves.
I don't mean to disrespect a gift.
Perfect. Then
offered,
I will go
but
get it for you. Here is the location of the inn. This is the inn where we're staying. I already gave it to Suda. She approached and said, "Hey, where do you know we're staying at?" So she will meet us there later. You all go off, find Athen Cleary. I'll get the robe for you.
I don't think there's any need for that, Leto. We're going to find something that's a little more worth being beat up underground. Let's go.
Leto isn't going to accompany you guys at this point. You guys know where the inn is. As he mentioned, he gave the location to Suda before she departed. So she will meet you guys there later at the inn. He also, given that he knows Athen Cleary, he tells you where her estate is here in Walking Still, so you guys can go and see her whenever you have the opportunity. And he will depart to take care of his own business. So, you guys are left here at the edge of the entrance to the city into More Akros. It sounds like you're about done with investigating it for now. Enough poking the bear for tonight. So, where are you guys headed now that you're here in the city?
I do have one thing I want to
Yes.
check before we leave. If Owen can get like just a second to himself where no one's paying attention to him, he'd like to take off the glove just to take a look at his hand to see if anything's happened to it.
Yeah. You take off the glove. The cold is all too familiar. The bitter cold is all too familiar on the slightly old, frozen knuckles where the fingers were claimed by the frostbite. It's very familiar. And though there's no physical differences in your hands, you hear the wind blow somewhere in your ear. You feel the chill on the wind. There's something deeply familiar about all of this, but at the same time, sickening to you. It seems to be exactly what you're looking for, but something that you almost want to stay away from at the same time.
Owen will slip the glove back on, sort of adjust it to make sure it's fitted on correctly. And when he hears that wind sort of blow in his ear, and it feels familiar, but something he wants to stay away from, does it feel like does it feel like that same sort of company that day, or no? This is different.
It does feel different. Almost. It definitely feels different. Not the same thing, like a familial connection. Barely similar, but very different from what you experienced that day. This is not the same thing. And it almost makes you afraid of what will be found.
I think just to calm himself down a little bit, he's going to whisper to himself in Druidic the same words that he whispered before the first time. Then he's just going to say, I don't want to die.
The cold leaves your hands as you walk away from the entrance into More Akros. You guys have, still, it's only late afternoon, even though the sun has set. So it's still very much within normal operating hours for most people. I know you guys are eventually going to be heading over to Athen Cleary's estate. Anything you guys wish to take care of beforehand?
Certainly, as we're moving through the city, Elena's going to keep her eyes open for a messenger letter sending, and that letter that she scribbled out earlier gets very carefully folded and put into an envelope and sent on its way.
Okay. I'll ask same thing I ask all of you guys whenever you guys are sending missives. Are you going Steel Bones or outside courier?
Steel Bones is fine.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, that is just a couple gold pieces. We'll call it 6. They're an expensive service.
Done.
I know that as a party, we'll be heading over to Athen Cleary's estate to formally pay a visit, request her services, etc. Carabin would still like to go scope out that area prior to visiting en masse, kind of getting a feel of the lay of the land, if there are frequently guards or other official types in that area, that sort of thing. And I am trying to be sneaky while I do so.
Are you doing this solo?
Probably.
Olwen will accompany if Caradwin
I don't
doesn't
object.
If Caradwin doesn't object to it.
Wonderful. Sage, Alina, Kuvos, anything you guys are doing while Carrie and Olwen split off?
I was just going to say if there's either just heading back to the inn or if there is a library museum type space, Elena could happily while away a bit of time in there if she needs to.
Right.
We're pretty kitted out for supplies is my impression.
Yes, but I think it would be very fun to make you help Kuvos get some better
Trying to get the boy.
gear.
I mean, there is that.
That would be very
I
fun.
mean, you are right. He's wearing a conclave like traveling uniform. So even so, the many-eyed wolf
It is still a
covered.
uniform.
It's still like I see what you're wearing, dude. Even though you can't.
Anybody who's been to Wolves Landing is going to know that this is a conclave standard
Anyone
issue
who's met
outfit.
a traveling conclave student is like, yeah, I know who you are, dude.
I do think it's also kind of in the vein of Alina, like keeping an eye out for a museum or a library, just checking out the city.
Unless any of
Going
you have
downtown,
something
you know?
specific in mind you want to do for that, we can just kind of go through it really quick. Assume you guys spend a little.
We
bit
don't
of
have to
money,
actually roleplay it out. But
to get
yeah.
whatever Kuvos will need to better disguise himself. Unless there's anything, of course, specific you guys want to do during that time.
Well, Kuvos is kind of having a thought as they're walking, because was it in walking still that we were supposed to? So this is me going way back in my notes and thinking about when we found Ushed. I just want to make sure I'm not supposed to be like looking for something for that before we go into the underground city, and I lose that plot thread that's kind of important to Kuvos.
I'll give you this, because I found the note. I know it is in walking still. I cannot find the note I made about the specifics. So I'll double check that during our break so you can have specifics. But you are in the city where that individual was mentioned. So you know it is here.
Okay.
So I think you're on the right
as
path where it's something that you should do before going underground.
Mm-hmm. Kuvos is going to kind of have that realization. Realize that Suda, who was his go-between for that contact, isn't here. Just go, shit. Like, under his breath as they're walking, and realize that after they deal with Athen Cleary, he's going to have to sit down and try and figure out more about where this Knight Julian is so he can go talk to them himself.
Yeah, something in the back of Kuvos' mind, which is whenever Suda joined you guys here in Walking Still, that'd definitely be something good to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wonderful. Carrie and Olwen, you guys, both of you go ahead. I'm assuming, I know Carrie's being stealthy. I assume Olwen is as well. Are we doing stealth like fully, I do not want to be seen on the streets, or I'm just trying to blend in, nobody notice me, nobody look at me?
I think the latter, sticking to the shadows, trying to stay. I'm not like hiding, but I do not want to be perceived.
Yeah. Being extremely subtle walking through the streets, so nobody, if anyone even sees you, it's just another passing face in the crowd. So go ahead, both of you, roll me some stealth checks.
Natural 20.
Ooh.
Natural 20.
You're on the same brainwave.
These
oh my
homies,
god.
Literally.
They're best friends now.
Yeah, honestly, you guys are best friends now. It's inevitable.
Did we just become best friends?
Yeah. You guys begin to work together as if you have known each other all your lives. It is Carrie moving forward and Olwen immediately following behind a guard right behind her. And the two of them sticking to the shadows, and this one conveniently moves behind a person in the crowd, and this one just ducks under the arm. It's like, it's so in tandem and perfect. Nobody even notices a breeze go by them as you guys work your way through the crowds and the streets to make your way towards Athen Cleary's estate. What you guys observe as you come upon the estate, it's not like a giant grand mansion. It looks like a wealthy, modest, like large townhome, similar to sort of Alina's in Sears Morning. It is not nestled in with the other buildings. It's a bit spaced off. You can tell she probably values a bit of privacy and space. So it's almost like at the end of a street, and it's very purposely arranged so there's no one else really around her estate, really. It is fenced off. There's no like guards patrolling it. You occasionally see one or two that are just kind of walking the streets, but no one's like posted outside. There is a little engraved copper sign outside the front that reads the Ozijian Estate, and that is spelled Ozijiane. Ozijian. It is a pretty beautiful, almost like red brick townhome. There seem to be like custom, like carved, like gargoyles sitting atop the roof, and there is a small plume of gentle smoke coming out of the roof as well. It's covered in a bit of plant life. There's one or two trees out front, but very, very much the equivalent of a house with the private property, no loitering, beware of dog, like very much like do not knock on my door, leave me alone kind of house.
While we have the time here and it's sort of quiet, could Olwyn take out his cartographer's tools and just try and like make a quick sketch of a map of like the area?
Yeah, you note down the route you took, kind of the area that you grew familiar with getting here. Easy enough to do.
As he's doing that, he is going to talk to Carrie and say, "Alright, well, the outside seems relatively easy. How much are you willing to bet that there are some sort of magical thing to alert them if we try to enter the estate?"
I would not take that bet, in that I am certain that there is something preventing any unwanted visitors or intrusions. Could I make a perception check looking for traps or areas that
I'll
would be...
say more investigation to sort of observe the house and see, kind of gather what its security is like.
Oh,
Could I-
investigation?
Could I get the help action with
Yeah,
it?
of course.
Okay, marginally better. Let's see, this is the dice that rolls well for me. Baby.
Oh no.
Seven.
Sometimes you roll double nat 20s, and sometimes you get a 7.
Sometimes you roll a 1 and a 6.
I'd say the most you notice is it looks like there might be just like little like copper like bars over some of the windows, like some of the ground floor. You can't really get a sense of what the security is like from out here.
Well, you are staring into the estate for a few seconds. Do you see anything?
Nothing that jumps out at me, though this is not a home I would be attempting to enter without an invitation.
And just so we're clear, is like the estate in the middle of like the sort of land? So it's like away from the the perimeter of it?
It's like the last house at the very end of a dead-end street, sort of.
Okay.
And you see that the fence has been built out to give ample space around the house, so there's no other houses right up against it. Other houses are built pretty close together and create like small alleyways and backyards and such. You're in more of a residential district, but yeah, this one is very purposely built to keep people at arm's length.
Alright, so no entry point for us there. Do you have a spyglass of any kind, or no?
Do not. Not a tool in my usual arsenal.
Alright, well, this map might be the best we can do for now, unless you're willing to wait here and see if anyone slips up on conversation for a while.
I think we have reason enough to call on Athen Cleary legitimately, and I think that should we be granted access to even the grounds, let alone the house, that will provide a little better opportunity for us to see if there might be alternative entrances, just in case.
Alright, fair enough. Let's see where they dragged the fish boy to buy him clothes.
We'll sneak away.
You guys sneak away. Those nat 20s were so phenomenal. They're going to carry over to this stealth. You depart from the front of the estate and preparing your party to face the famed and mysterious inventor Athen Cleary in her home. That is where we will end it today, folks. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us again. I do hope you enjoyed, and I hope a sense of dread and feeling of the body horror that is possibly about to come and the deep disturbed nature of it all sticks with you today, because then I'm doing my job.
He has asked us multiple times if any of us are claustrophobic over the past few weeks.
Yeah, if anyone's
It's
claustrophobic,
true.
proceed with caution. I'm just saying right now. Thank you all
There
again.
will be content warnings on the front of the episodes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you all next time. As always, everyone out there, take care of yourselves today. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Waving, but we are. Suda. The sound of your feet hitting the dirt road. You've kept a steady pace for a while now. You know how to give chase. You know how to give chase efficiently. This is the nature of what you do. This is everything that you do. You know your prey that you are tracking, and you know somewhat where to find them. You left a note for the party, letting them know you meet them later. Leto understands. He gave you the location for the inn. You're all set. But you know this is a loose end you cannot leave. So down this dirt road you go, back in the direction of whence you came. You've been on this path for a couple hours now. You know there's only one way that they could go up this road. Maybe you're starting to lose faith a bit in pursuit of your target, but you're not one to give up easily. As you continue down this road framed by the gallows, the corpses, the traitors to the Empire, not giving the best indication of what may be to come, but you keep your focus ahead of you. Eventually, finally, you spot a familiar caravan. Maybe not familiar to you specifically, but you know its type. You know this is the type that would have been used. You didn't have eyes on the strange military convoy yourself, but you know what to look for. The only thing out of the ordinary with this convoy, however, is the fact that it's on its side. You see no horses, no soldiers, no bodies. You just see this military caravan vehicle tipped over, and strangely no other evidence to what may have happened here and where your prey is now. So, as you approach this abandoned vehicle, what would you like to do?
The absence of person and animal is the strangest. If they had been attacked, there would be signs of battle, perhaps some blood, viscera. But that does not seem to be the case. So I'm going to poke around what wagons or other vehicles that have been overturned or disabled and get a sense of what happened to them and maybe where, if there are any tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me an investigation check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Terrible. 7.
7, yeah. You take a look around. You're pretty good at tracking your targets. This eludes you. The one thing you notice, I would say, however, with that low roll is I think the absence of any evidence tells you more than one would think. If it were an ambush, an attack, anything like that, you know you're on the right track. There would be something left behind. The lack of any obvious evidence here suggests either experts much beyond your caliber or something entirely unexplainable.
Neither of which gives me any comfort. Scanning the area, are there any signs of structures, encampments, like smoke, or signs of life?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say as you turn, yeah, it'd be simple enough to see. As you turn and kind of scan the area around you, this dirt road that you've been traveling along is framed by, of course, the couple miles of gallows that line the road. But just beyond that, there are trees. Not very thick at this part, but the forested area does get thicker and more dense the closer you get to the base of the mountains. You can see, perhaps 10, 15 minutes into the woods, a very gentle, soft plume of smoke rising up from the trees. Either of small fire or something recently extinguished.
Then that is my next destination, lacking any other point of interest.
All right. You veer to the left off the road, leaving the abandoned caravan, and into the woods you go. At this point in the morning, the sun has yet to rise. You are going through the deep darkness of the Empire's weather. You rely on your senses fairly well. You trust them to serve you. But you continue carefully through the woods. Not a quick of a pace as you had on the road, a bit more caution in your steps now. You make the somewhat easy trek towards that plume of smoke. You know you're headed in the right direction. You can smell it as you get closer.
As I near, I prepare myself. First, summoning that the shadowy scimitar to my hand and crouching low, lowering my center of gravity, balancing carefully on my toes as to soften my steps and approach with stealth.
Absolutely.
Much better. 17.
17, wonderful. You continue the last short leg of the journey, crouched low, hiding in the foliage. You are confident in your ability to stay hidden. Smell of smoke grows stronger, but is soon accompanied by the sound of hushed voices. And you realize very quickly, one of the two voices you're hearing is the voice of the man that was questioning Alina outside of the wagon. You know these are your targets. You come closer and listen in as you hear him continue to speak to the remaining companion of the caravan. Look, if we double back here, we can go back down the road. We just have to cross the border back into Mardo. If we can just get there, we can find some of our allies back over in Little Ivywood. We just need to get back down to Mardo. You hear the second voice chime in. I told you that it was a shitty idea to try to get this far into Valenson. What the fuck did you think was gonna happen? That people would we would just explain our presence here? As if it was nothing? First voice cuts him off. I know what I'm doing. It's not my fault that they're a lot more fucking observant than I thought they were going to be. We can't turn back entirely. We just have to retreat long enough to catch our breath. You and I both know we can't go back to Wolves Landing empty-handed. I'd rather die out here at the hands of Shroud more than anything else. Just pack up your shit. We're gonna have to travel by the trees. Further south. Cross back into Mardo. Get to Little Ivywood from there. And we'll figure it out. We just need to get somewhere safe. Your conversation fades as you hear them begin to move objects around.
Do I only hear the two voices? And as far as sight is concerned, is it just the two of them, or are there more individuals?
From what you can see, peeking through the trees, you see that there is a small fire that illuminates two crouched figures in front of it. As they finish their conversation, you see the larger one, you would have to guess the one that was taking the charge in the search for you, begins to put out the fire. But while it was lit, the two that you could see were the only two.
Okay. Calling upon whatever shadowy power that Naime channels to my grasp.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the assumed leader puts out the fire, going to pull the surrounding shadows into a ball. Essentially, they just suck inward like so many, like a black hole. As the fire is snuffed out, it's like waves rushing in to fill a void, and they are covered in darkness as I cast darkness on top of them.
All right. Yeah. You cast darkness. The heavy shadows brought on by the extinguishing of the fire just becomes more oppressive. And you hear the shuffling as you presume they were packing up their belongings come to a stop. Well, even though it was dark before, they seem to realize they suddenly cannot see at all.
People do not take well to interlopers in this area, I have learned. And it sounds like the two of you may be lost.
That's right. Shut up. What do you want?
I want to know who has acquired your services to seek out this bounty.
You hear the sound of a blade drawn from a sheath, but no further movement. Well, given your dialect, I assume you might know yourself.
I can make many assumptions, as you are. But it seems that you are on the losing end of this game. And I can certainly leave you to the wolves around here. Why take this on? Why put yourselves in such danger? It seems foolhardy.
Well, I suppose it's because we have something that you severely lack.
As I'm speaking, I'm walking around the sphere of darkness, making sure to change my position so that they can't get a bead on me, at least the best that I can. And what is that?
Loyalty to our family. You hear a shove and a scramble of feet against dirt as you hear the man in charge go, "Conan, go!" And you hear as footsteps begin to run out of the dark. They are not running towards you, they are just running. And the first one begins to run the opposite direction, also out of the darkness.
I'm just gonna, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, how many squares are on 50?
Let's roll a d12 and see where you are, like, on a clock face.
Yeah. Okay, that, perfect. I'm at the 1 o'clock.
So the one, what you can tell is probably like the underling, takes off in the opposite direction of where you are. The one in charge, unluckily for himself, takes off in a direction right near you, right at the 2 o'clock, essentially.
In that case, I don't know, what's a trip attempt?
Yeah, you can try to, we'll call it like a grapple or a shove, or just make opposing athletics, essentially.
Okay. I mean, not my best one, but not terrible. 12.
12. He's pretty strong. Yeah, rolled incredibly well. You see he stumbles for half a second, but quickly gets his footing and jumps over your outstretched foot to try to trip him up. Goes another 10 feet, stops, and spins around. He has his blade at the ready.
What do you mean, our family?
He grinds his teeth together, flexes his head to the side, cracking his neck, and he hisses between clenched teeth. Fin sefe, let's not sin Oloska. And he's going to charge.
Did he just spit like the household like motto at me or something?
He spits at you in Celestial, your blood, in the name of Oloska.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah, he's gonna charge at you and try to make an attack, so let's go ahead and roll initiative.
Perfect. Mine is 16, I believe. Yes, 16.
Perfect. Yeah, you're going first. So you react faster than he can get his first swing in. So go ahead and do whatever you will as he charges you.
He's how far away?
He was 10 feet away. He's approaching, so he's like just entering melee, but not quite there yet. So like
Okay,
move forward
so-
like 5 feet essentially.
So if I could, or I could do like an Eldritch Blast without being at disadvantage.
Yeah, because he's not in melee yet.
All right. Then an Eldritch Blast it is.
All right.
To start things off with a shot. So I merely there is this black shadowy pulse as again that crack of silence echoes between us at a 17. Uh, 17 to hit.
There we go. Had to find it again. 17 does not hit.
Oh. God, I am terrible with these Eldritch Blasts, I tell you. Not sure what my options are for bonus. Bonus actions. Well, I will keep my reaction open. Oh, wait. As a bonus action, choose one creature I can see within 30 feet, curse it for 1 minute.
Right.
So the Eldritch Blast may not have hit him, but tendrils of shadow cling to him and inhibit his actions. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's against a cursed target. I gain extra damage, score criticals easier. So they're like undoing his armor and opening weak points.
All right. Yeah, absolutely.
That will be my turn.
Wonderful. He is just going to lift his blades that he drew and try to attack.
All right.
Christ almighty. So he crits.
So like a natural 20.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So a shield would not help in this case.
Probably not.
No. Okay.
Rolling like garbage on the damage though.
Well, I got something going for me at least.
That's 2. It's 5. 5. Yeah, so only does 10 points of damage with that attack.
Still a hearty third of my hit points.
Still a good chunk, but
Yeah.
I was expecting him to do a lot worse.
Yeah, well, that's my luck, I guess.
Gotta get a little beat up right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can come back like heroically covered in blood. All right, but yeah, that's his only thing to do is attack. He's just gonna remain right there in melee with you, holding his sword up defensively.
In a way, I'm letting the attack come so I can get inside his defenses and make a slash for myself, cutting in with that blackened scimitar. So, you know what? I'm gonna roll with this one. Of course, it's probably gonna do me dirty too. And I think it does, which 17 again.
17.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That is just one off, I tell you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's a heavily armored gentleman.
Well, that doesn't bode well, but we will roll with it because that's what we're supposed to do. So I guess that is his turn.
This is just his second attack misses horribly. He goes to try to has to focus his attention in deflecting your next attack, and in your turn trying to swing back to hit you, it goes wide. This is really just the two of you scrapping in the woods with no honor, trying to kill each other at this moment. Nothing more than each of you taking your turn to attack.
This may or may not help me. It certainly won't help me kill him, but maybe it can help me last a little bit longer. I step back into that shadowy globe that I created, and it sucks inward, wrapping itself around me, and blurs my silhouette. So I am casting blur.
All right. So he has disadvantage, correct?
Yes.
Got it. Yeah, you are blurred with this dark, shadowy substance already in the dead of night, deep in the woods. It is incredibly hard to see you.
And
Okay.
I raise my sword again in taunt, because let's live dangerously.
Amazing. Yeah, he's gonna try to hit. We're gonna do that with disadvantage. Oof, good on that disadvantage. He only got a 15 to try and hit you.
Yep, nope, that is not a hit. And I
All
will
right.
answer, hopefully, with my own. Yes! I rolled a nat 20
Hell yeah!
on my scimitar here. So I let him sweep in with an attack, the shadow dissipating a little bit as his blade passes through. I step in, up, and across, delivering a heavy kind of uppercut blow. So is that 2d6, or do I roll once and double?
Yeah, double all your die.
Okay, roll twice. Okay, not bad. 18 plus. Now, do I double the damage from the curse, or do I just tack it on at the end?
If it's not something you roll, just tack it on at the end. I like doing crits.
Okay.
You just double any and all dice that you're rolling for damage.
Okay, so I don't even double like the strength damage on the end?
Yeah, since it's just one attack, anything that's like tacked on, we'll add that on as normal, so it's just double all dice.
Got you. Okay, all right. So that's 8 on the dice, plus 5, which is 13, plus 2 is 15.
Amazing. That does take a good chunk out of him. He's not the hardiest, he just got really lucky with that first crit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see, you give him a really deep blow. It gets him, giving him sort of like an uppercut kind of swing. It goes into like his chin and slices up across his face, and then goes almost like into his hairline, a deep gash across the lower half of the face as he tries to duck out of the way but is not fast enough. You see it gets him immensely.
The Oluskas can go fuck themselves.
Yeah, he's gonna try to attack you right back for that. He's not
Okay.
doing good. Yeah. His disadvantage is not boding well. He misses once again.
This shadowy figure, one gold eye peeking out of the shadowy substance. No, I'm gonna miss on that one. That was only a 12.
Unfortunately, no.
So we exchange a round of blows, unsuccessful in our swings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really just the clanging of swords together in the darkness of this night. There's occasionally a stray spark or two that comes from the scraping metal, almost making flashes of light in this darkness here. And you, cloaked in this same shadowy, as you said, that one gold eye peering out, his face coated in blood in return. The fear is evident on his face, but so is the anger and determination. He is definitely not going to be one to back down from this. Making his next attack with disadvantage still. Damn, that disadvantage, that blur was a fantastic idea. He is missing all of these.
Good. Oh, so close to another crit. So close. But that is a 25 for 8 more damage.
Suda, how do you want to do this?
I press the attack, forcing him into a defensive posture, stepping side to side, keeping him guessing as to where I'm at. Just the gold eye like flitting back and forth as I move. And as soon as his foot catches on something in his path and he stumbles, I bear him down to the ground. The blade in his chest, right next to his heart. And I lean in. Who are you to the family? And if you don't answer straight, then this blade will cut your heart from your chest, and you will bleed quickly. If you answer me, then maybe you yet live.
One of his hands grasps your wrist, the other grasping the blade itself, holding the sword that is now plunged into his chest, just holding it there, holding himself upright. You see he's still seething, blood bubbling from between his teeth, covering the entire side of his face where you slashed him. And he's staring directly back at you, though he can't quite get a straight read on your face with the blur effects still covering you. But he still stares at that one golden eye. And as you ask your question, he inhales sharply and shakily with the sword in his chest and spits blood right at your face and simply stares and waits for what's to come.
I am, if nothing, but true to my word. And I give the sword a quick and forceful twist to just grind it in through his chest cavity and pull out with a spray. And I stand and I turn, wiping the spray of blood off my face some, and turning to look for the second. Is he simply gone?
You see no sign of him but broken branches from the path that he took to run madly into the woods.
Nobody likes a loose end. But is it worth the message? I think so. And I will leave the younger man to his panic. Hopefully to bring back the message that I am not to be fucked with. And to leave me alone. And I will begin my journey back toward the group.
All right.
I'm sorry. Sorry,
Yeah.
cutting in. Before I do, I want to search him for any missives or notes, anything to that effect.
Yeah, absolutely. You take a look at his belongings. I think no roll necessary. You have plenty of time and no pressure to go through his things very thoroughly. You gather a lot of information pretty quickly. The armor he was wearing was emblazoned with Shroudmore insignia, but you see it's fitted irregularly. It was not made for him, or he put it on strangely, and it's already seen quite a bit of wear and tear. And from the conversation he was having with the younger man earlier, you would have to assume these men are not of Shroudmore. Not in the slightest. You find the poster that he was waving around with your face on it that said, wanted person of interest. Now, spattered with blood. You see a pack of supplies for long travel. And you see not a lot of information regarding the mission he was sent on. I think the most damning evidence you find is the one small slip of paper that is accompanied with the wanted poster that was created. The slip of paper addresses him as Dustran, a name you have not heard before. And it reads very simply, you have been debriefed. You know what steps to take. Do not fail, and if you do not come home. And it is not signed.
Something in my recollection, or not recollection, but my intuition is talking to me, my gut. And it could be I could be completely off track here. But the false identities, the cryptic message, leads me to think that this is yet another failed Reaver assassination attempt or something to that effect. So I have suspicions that the Reavers were contracted for this. Again, I could be completely wrong, but guess we'll find out in the days to come. I will collect I'm gonna turn the wanted poster face down. No, not face down. Face down on the breastplate. The guy's breastplate. That's what's left of it. I'm gonna take some charcoal from the fire and do a charcoal rubbing to get the insignia, at least part of it anyway. I'm not sure if it's going to help me in the long run, but I'd rather collect the evidence. But I don't want to bring this guy's bloody breastplate with me. So I take this rubbing, I fold it up along with the slip of paper, put it on my person, and make my way home. Kind of enjoying a sense of righteousness, a sense of vindication to an extent, and reveling also in a feeling of being free just a little bit longer. I will use my little celestial healing ability to restore a couple of hit points, but other than that, I am good to return.
You gather the things that you wish to take from this site of slaughter, leaving the body behind. You make the walk through the woods back towards the road. Your clothes and your armor, blood splattered and grime covered from the fights, but nothing that can't be washed out. You glance down at that piece of parchment, the rubbing you did on the back of the wanted poster. Recreation of the Shroudmore insignia from the stolen armor. Though with the slash, the bend in the metal where your sword pierced, it's not a complete, perfect recreation. It sort of creates a break in the image. From where your sword pierced the breastplate of that false soldier, it makes the insignia look more like a broken, crumbling tower than anything else. And so you return back down that dirt road, knowing that your hunt is completed, but this shall not be the last one.